You know, there's been a really interesting story going on. It has to do with Chinese nationals who are working in some of the most sensitive areas of NASA. They have access to top secret programs, walk around the facility at will. Well, there's one congressman who's been concerned about this, and he started to raise concerns about a guy named Bo Zhang, who made a run for it this weekend and was arrested by the FBI. Congressman Frank Wolf is the congressman who's been raising questions about this for some time. He joins us now on the Newsmaker hotline. Hello, Congressman. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Tell me about Bo Zhang. Who is he, and what's his story?
Well, the whistleblowers at NASA brought this to my attention, and we put the FBI on the case, and I want to thank the FBI and DHS for doing a good job. He had access to information he had taken back to China one other time before and should have never been able to take that back. There is language in the appropriation bill that keeps NASA from doing any cooperation with China. As you know, China has the most aggressive spying program, that much more even so than the KGB. I mean, they are all over this place, and as you saw last week, Director Mueller and Brennan and also Clapper said that cyber attacks now are more significant even than terrorism. And the leading country in China is China with regard to cyber. So he was taking information out. He bought a one-way ticket back to China, left Norfolk. The FBI intercepted him at Dulles Airport. He lied to them with regard to what he had. He said he had certain things. He had additional things on. They arrested him. Now looking at the laptop, but we believe he was taking information out, and the technology that they're working on down at NASA Langley deals with missiles and other things like that. So
Right.
He should have never even been there.
Very quickly, he worked for the National Institute of Aerospace, and because of that position, they did contract work for NASA. He had access to Langley facility, a lot of sensitive stuff going on there. But you say this may be the tip of the iceberg.
It could be a tip of the iceberg. We're getting reports. We had whistleblowers, federal employees, career people come in with regard to another NASA Ames out in California, and it's been raised to maybe one or two others. So what we're asking for, Brian, is that NASA selected maybe the National Academy of Public Administration and somebody like former Attorney General Dick Thornburg to come in and look at this thing agency-wide, because it could be taking places and taking part in other places, but there may be more than what we're dealing with here.
Well, and Congressman Wolf, the Inspector General for NASA, Paul Martin, he says that there are about 200 Chinese nationals working in positions that put them close to access of these of the agency and programs and having access to this information. What is the rationale for having any Chinese nationals working in such a sensitive area, especially with the employment situation in America right now? You would think that we could hire enough American citizens, or is this kind of an international goodwill outreach program?
No, I think you got you. No, there's no rationale for it. They ought not be there. And what he didn't say is we believe there are no Americans working in Chinese installations in their space program. So it's all this way and none the other way. And keep in mind, the space program in China is run by the People's Liberation Army. They're the same people that opened up fire in Tiananmen Square, if you recall, and killed all the people. They're the same people that are heading up the cyber program. All the cyber attacks are done by the People's Liberation Army. They have a special cadre that do nothing but. They're the people that run their space program. So There's no way any of them should be working over here. No one.
So,
none.
I mean, from what I can read, and we started talking about this, I think it was last Friday when the story first started to break, and I see your name linked to it. I see a couple of people in Congress. I haven't heard anything from the administration. Have you brought this up with anybody in the administration? What has the Obama White House done about this or said about it?
We met with the administrator, and he didn't say very much, and he's coming before our committee tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and we're going to quiz him on it. I mean, they have been relatively silent.
Well, how does this happen? How does it happen that Chinese nationals, non-U.S. citizens, are allowed to work in the most sensitive areas of NASA? Who allowed this?
The Obama administration.
And why? Can they give you any suggestion as to why they thought this was a good idea?
No.
Well, we will be watching that committee tomorrow. That should be fascinating testimony, and I'm glad that you're there to point this out. While we've got you, since you're on the Appropriations Committee, I'm just curious. We had your colleague, Representative Andy Harris from Maryland, on last week. We talked about his showdown with the director of the CDC and some of the falsehoods that have been promoted about the sequestration cuts. Being on Appropriations, have you seen any other situations where the White House is really overreaching on the sequestration cut dialogue and rhetoric?
One, I think the sequestration is a bad idea because, frankly, we should be passing something bold like Simpson-Bowles, which eliminates all this sequestration. But the answer is, I think there's been, and now they're talking about ending the Easter egg roll.
We just saw that.
They stopped the White House tours. Valerie Jarrett has Secret Service protection. Valerie Jarrett. So why couldn't they take the money that Valerie Jarrett is using for Secret Service protection and open up the White House tours? So, one, sequestration is a bad idea. It should never take place. We should pass Simpson-Bowles and eliminate it all. But, yeah, I think there's been a little bit of kind of closing down the Washington Monument syndrome that you're seeing out of the administration. But I think every administration does that.
Right.
I think they all pick the most extreme thing to sort of send a message. But hopefully we can... our country's in trouble. We're broke.
Yeah.
We're broke, and so we got to deal with this boldly in one big, bold package. And I think, and that's a subject for another morning, but
all right.
Simpson-Bowles or something like it would eliminate all this problem and put the country back on a...
Well, listen, Congressman, we really appreciate you being diligent about this issue with NASA, and I think it's a real important story that hasn't gotten a great deal of coverage. And if there are new developments, I hope you'll come back and join us again.
Sure, be glad to, Brian.
Congressman Frank Wolf, always a pleasure, 740.